Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our City Council meeting this evening for, November 8th, 2023. We're going to start out tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance by Facundo Morales.
Everybody, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Facundo. We'll note that he is a member of Latinos in Action at Copper Mountain Middle School, and we're going to hear from them in a minute. So thank you, Facundo. Appreciate you doing that. Move on to item 5.2, City Council comments and recognitions.
I just want to, we had the opportunity to go up to the Public Works Department, and they had a employee barbecue appreciation, little potluck for the employees, and it was great to see them all gather. And we didn't partake of any of the smoked meats, but they smelled delicious. And for the people that were up there took part in it, it's kind of cool to see that camaraderie of the people that actually make this city run. We sit up here and dictate and say yes or no a lot, but actually seeing those people that are working in the fields every day is kind of cool, and getting to know them better. So.
Okay, I will go then. Could I have Marisha? Marisha, I'm sorry, can you come up to the podium there? You guys know I hate this. I hate when I do this. Marisha knows we've been through a lot this week. So Marisha Manzano is one of our school resource officers. We wanted to recognize her tonight. Teddy, do you want to start? Go ahead and start. I'm going to take a minute. Yeah, I need some. Go ahead and start. Talk about Marisha for a minute.
So Marisha is a school resource officer for us. It has been, last year she won received the Officer of the Year Award. Is that correct, Chief? Which is pretty amazing for her efforts in the community. Not only just as a police officer, as a friend and an advocate for the youth in her school, but for the community all around. She's single-handedly helped many, many individuals in this community and continues to do that every day. And she's always looking for the opportunity to serve. So.
I'm just going to mention a few things. I don't think everybody realizes what Marisha does. A lot of this on her own time as well, I might add. So she does the coat drive, as Teddy mentioned, but beyond that, she's out there also gathering the coats herself on her time. I know her family is a huge support to her, so thank you too. But there was a family, I think what brought it to all of our attention how much she's doing is there's a family of 12 that arrived in our community from Venezuela, and with no bedding, with no clothes. And Marisha wasn't going to tell them no. She wasn't going to let that family spend any more nights on the floor. So she reached out to this community, was able to secure bedding, two triple bunks, a queen bed, if I'm not mistaken, some other, just all on her own. That's not anything that she had to do. That was entirely on her own. One thing I think that I've been able to participate a few times into, she also started a English conversations class at Copper Mountain Middle School to where anybody can stay that wants to stay. We do have a large immigrant population at Copper Mountain right now, and she recognized that. And so they stay every Friday after school at 3 o'clock for an hour, and they just have conversations. It's just basic. It's not school conversations. It's just life conversations, and giving some of these students that are learning English a chance to just improve there. And that's on her own. And she invites members of the community. We've had UFA members there. We've had some of our other officers come and help. But I think more than anything, Marisha, I think for me, I think you've brought a need. There's a need in this community, and I think you've highlighted that and allowed other miracles to truly start happening in this community, supporting those that are here. I don't think we know about those needs without you. I truly believe that. I don't think we recognize those needs and are responding without you. So I think we're very fortunate to have you, fortunate to have the support of your family. I know you've been gone a lot, so thank you to your family. So we just want to say thank you for what you do, not only being the amazing officer that you are, but the amazing human and member of this community that you are. So I know you don't like to be embarrassed like this, but
Yeah, no, it's great.
go ahead, Shep.
I had no idea what you were doing until I called Chief one day and I was asking him about how to resolve an issue, and he's like, "Oh, well, Marisha does all that." Anyway, and he just went through this very long list of things that you've been able to accomplish and do. And it's not just because of your position, it's because of who you are. There are a lot of people that see need and just go on about their daily lives and say, geez, I hope somebody helps them, or I hope that there's some way. But you just act upon it. And there's something really uniquely powerful about that that's amazing, actually. So I, too, want to personally thank you for just not only seeing a need, but doing something about it and making sure it gets done, and delegating and finding resources. Because I think that we live in a good community. I think that a lot of people just have no idea that there's needs, or they just turn their heads to them and hope somebody else will deal with them. So thank you for addressing them and giving other people a chance to help you along the way, too.
I'd like to just if we could all just give Marisha a round of applause for everything she does for us. Can we do a picture?
Sure.
One, two, three.
Okay, we will move on to item 6 on our agenda tonight, public comment. Audience members may bring any item to the City Council's attention. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes. State law prohibits the council from acting on items that do not appear on the agenda. Public comments for this meeting will also be conducted electronically. Any person interested in addressing the council may submit a comment by emailing recorder@harriman.org or by visiting harriman.org/agendas and minutes, where there's a link to fill out an online public comment form. Your statement will be incorporated into the public record. So I don't have any forms tonight, but if there's anybody that would like to speak tonight, go ahead and come to the podium. Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 7, City Council reports. We'll start with Jared.
Budget season is beginning. I've got Finance Committee for UFA on the 29th, so I'm sure I will regale you with tales of that meeting after that.
Okay, Teddy?
So we had the sewer board meeting about a week and a half ago. We talked about 134 South and the construction there, so be aware they are starting to move utilities and get that underway. It'll be in full force next spring, but be prepared for different traffic patterns, and that's out on 134th and Bangor area. November 28th, we do have our budget meeting for our public open house. So if you There is going to be a potential fee increase on your sewer bill. We'll be talking about that and a couple other things during those meetings. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Sherry?
Just got here from the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District Board and finished up the water year really well, down a little bit, about, I think it was -2% over last year. So people kept their conservation habits, so that was really great news. And the reservoirs are looking pretty good. So, and Utah Lake is actually pretty high. So we're hoping for another good water year. Hopefully Mother Nature will cooperate. And then a large part of the meeting was the bond issue. We discussed it during the tax increase hearings, but in January, we'll go out for a $135 million bond issue. $100 million is new money, $35 million is like refunding bonds, but because of the rates and the financial situations going on right now, the $35 million bonds might not be reissued because right now it doesn't make sense. So those will be depending on what makes sense, but the $100 million will be new money that's been voted on. And then the Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling District, we have our public hearing for the tentative budget. Is going to be Monday, what is Monday, December? Monday, November 13th at 6 p.m. at the district offices, 604 West, 6960 South at 6 p.m. If anybody wants to come and be a part of that budget hearing, there will be a public hearing at 6 p.m.
Perfect. Thank you, Sherry. Steve, do you have anything?
Not at this time.
Okay. Thank you. I'll just make a quick note. We did have a COG Public Works Corridor Preservation Committee meeting on the 1st. Harriman was approved for some money, 1.5 on 7300 West. So that'll help facilitate the future build out of that corridor out there. So that's all I have. So we will move on to item 9. I'm excited about this one. Our first item tonight is a presentation from Latinos in Action. I've met some of these young, amazing people visiting at Copper Mountain. So we're going to turn it over to you. You've got a few students, so the floor is yours.
First of all, thank you so much for this opportunity. The students and I are so excited to have this opportunity to talk to you guys and just kind of let you know what Latinos in Action is all about. And we're going to have a few of the students explain and talk to you, and then we'll open it for questions at the end. So first, we just wanted to share what our mission statement is. So we're going to just do that as a class.
I'm Veronica, and I'm from Utah, and I'm in the social committee.
I'm Facundo, and I'm the president of Latinos in Action.
Hello, I am Fernando Moutinho, and I'm from Venezuela, and I'm the vice president of the service committee.
Hi, my name is Allison. I'm from Utah and I'm in the social committee.
Hi, my name is Marianne. I'm from Utah and I'm a secretary for the social committee.
Hi, I'm Benjamin. I'm from Chile. I'm the vice president of the professional committee.
Latinos in Action is a family and a community that helps Latinos across our school in ways to make them feel welcome and safe. I came to the United States when I was 5 years old and arrived at a very small town. I really didn't know much English, and it took me a while. It was very difficult to learn it. And I feel like Latinos in Action gives a very big opportunity to the new Latinos coming into Harriman to help them and make them feel welcome and safe.
The pillars of LA. The first pillar of LA is personal assets, where we use our ability to speak multiple languages to help our culture. The second pillar of LA is excellence in education, where we make sure all of our students who participate in LA graduate high school and college. Our third pillar of LA is service, where all of our LA students participate in helping our community to make a difference. The fourth and final pillar of LA is leadership, where all of our students take on a leadership in different committees, such as a president, a vice president, historian, or secretary, or a member, to help make our community a better place.
So we're going to look at the total, and the total at the beginning of the year at Copper Mountain Middle School of Latino English speakers was 101, and it increased 32 of Latino English speakers. And this is the scale of the percentage of each grade of each Latino English speakers.
Just like LA, we think our community should be a family too. I think this because I think that our community should be more involved in all the events that we throw and should know more about everyone's culture, because everyone's culture is very different. So I think that everyone should be more involved.
The Latinos in Action theme this year is Stronger Together. I think this should be our community theme as well.
We're hoping you'll partner with us, not just to help us here in Latinos in Action, but to make a difference in the lives in our community, in the Latino lives in our community. With your help, we can provide provide more resources, events, and support for our Latino students. Join us in our mission to improve and uplift our youth.
If you do help us with funds and sponsor us, we would use those funds for activities or any type of activities in general for like students or maybe parents and the faculty of the school and our community in general.
More examples of how funds might be used. LIA Apparel to help identify LIA students in parent-teacher conference. Students help translate for parents and students that need it. Tutoring at the elementary school and for LIA-sponsored activities. The funds can also be used for supplies for activities hosted by LIA. Examples, food, decorations, venues. The funds can also be used for field trips to give our students opportunities to serve, educate, and be educated on culture and how to further help the community and their school.
So we just want to thank you guys again for giving us your attention, and we want to open this up to questions that you can ask me or any of our students.
I had a question a couple slides back, if you can, about the enrollment or the percentages in the school.
Yes.
The pie chart, yep.
Yep,
Pie
no, that
chart
one right
here?
there. Nope, nope, back one more.
Oh, one
Yep.
more. So the total here is the total of students. This is 8/23 is the day that we started school. And as you can see, we have 34, and these are all students that are English language learners or multi-language learners. And for you can see there's a WIDA. WIDA is just an acronym because in education there's a bajillion acronyms. But this one specifically is talking about what level the student is at in their language, and specifically in English. So level 1 would be the lowest level, and then level 3 on this chart would be the highest. So starting off at the year, we had 34 students that were level 1s, and that has already raised up just in 2 months to 55 students. So I think that all of you have seen a huge jump in numbers, but we've definitely been feeling it as well at the school. And we've just started Latinos in Action this year at Copper Mountain Middle, and we've been able to see how much an impact this class has made just on our school community.
You just answered my question. Is this the first year of this group?
For Copper Mountain Middle, they have it at the Harriman High School and then also at Mountain Ridge. But for the middle school, this is the first year.
And so this is English second language. Is this just not Latinos, but it could be anybody that's
Yes.
English second language?
Correct. However, so we have 3 ELD classes, and those are specifically, we've had a couple students, for example, from Mongolia that have come, and they've gone through the ELD, but they're already at like a level 3 at this point. So the classes that we have are now mostly Latinos coming from South America.
Okay. What's the total enrollment at Copper Mountain?
I want to say total is, and see, I should probably know this. It's like around 800. What did you say? Or you know? Anyways, but I do know that we have a total of that number has raised even since this, and it's 180 students that are English language learners now, and then we are able to see that there's 33% of each grade that are those. I want to say it's between 800 and 1,000. I'm not 100% on that number.
And we actually got those numbers from Daryl Robinson this morning.
On
So I
that
was looking
pie
up
chart,
here.
that's true.
Perfect.
If I cross-referenced, yeah.
It says 1,024.
That was a year start, probably.
For
yeah.
2023, yeah.
Yeah.
Beginning of that year.
Okay.
Okay. So I guess my question is, so you're looking for some partnering as far as financial possibly? Okay, do you have a certain amount you know you're looking for? Are you just hoping?
We are looking specifically for, so I've talked with some of the high schools and other LIA programs at different schools. They are usually receiving around $2,500 a year, and just that amount would be able to help us a lot with the events that we want to do. And we would like to have an event towards the spring where we could invite parents and students to come together and have kind of like a culture night or something like that, and that would need some extra funding. So $2,500 is kind of the ball game
Kind
or
of a ball
ball
game.
range
Okay.
that we're wanting.
Okay.
Other than financial, how else can we assist you or?
Well, I want to thank the mayor he's made a huge effort in coming every Friday to our English classes. I've had my Latinos in Action students that have also, and you've also come too, thank you so much.
Couple times.
With your cute kids. And so it's been really great to have all of you support in that way. And I think that just kind of like what Brianne said with making sure that our community feels like a family, and I definitely have felt that, and I think that can even just go up from here, and we want to help support as much as we can in bringing parents from the Latino community to be more in line with like participating in the school and knowing what's going on, because a lot of the time they aren't really familiar with the system or things that happen around here. So I think that is pretty much what could help the most. And we're happy to help with whatever we can in that range too.
Okay. Okay, I think we'd like to talk about it and discuss it. Do you have any comments about it or anything right now, Wendy?
I would be curious, and I know you had some little things on here, we could do this or we could do this, but I know with our youth council per se, they have a budget, and but they have to have planned things, right? So how much planning has gone into any activities you want to do, and how much investigating have you done on your end that says, we would like to do this activity and here's how much it would cost, those types of things? Because I think it would be advantageous for us, because to spend the community's money, which we have here as taxpayer money, and to give that to you, I wouldn't feel super comfortable unless there was some sort of a very structured activity that you're coming and saying, we've planned this out, here's what's going to cost, here's how we're organizing it. Those types of things make much more sense to me to spend taxpayer money towards, versus if you guys did fundraisers to do your activities or things like that, right? But I think that when you're asking for taxpayer money, it needs to be much more structured. Here's our activity, here's what we're planning, here's what it would cost, those types of things.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion. But and great job. You guys did a great job presenting tonight. Great job being leaders in your schools. And I hope always, and I maybe say this too much and it's never to be offensive, but I hope always on our police cars it says, we are Harriman. We try to use that all the time, because you are just a part of our community. Doesn't matter where you come from. It's important for you to know where you come from. It's important for us all to know where we come from. But what's really important moving forward is to know where you're at and know that you're a vital part of our community. And sometimes it's hard to overcome language barriers. I don't know. Some people think I can't speak English very well, so maybe that's hard for me too. But it's a hard thing to overcome language barriers, I'm sure. But I hope that the end goal is to assimilate into the We Are Harriman, so we can all truly feel like a big family in our community.
Just going off of what you said about the fundraising, I did actually talk with my principal about fundraising for our school and middle school. Just within the district, there's specific rules that we have to follow, and fundraising is not an option. Mm-hmm. So that's why we've been calling different sponsors, and Brianne actually was able to get us a spot here, which I think is super cool. It's a class, or a student-led class. And if it would be more helpful, we could sit down and kind of plan out what specifically we want to do. For example, in December 8th, we're having a parent night where we're going to be having parents come to learn about LIA, and also just to share a night together culturally, share food and things like that. So the money would go to things like that. It would also go to T-shirts that would help to identify us when we go to schools or even meetings like this. And we could get a specific list of things and then maybe send it on to someone to help that be a little bit more specific, if that would help.
To me, that makes more sense, because then it's a budget, you know what I mean, rather than simply a donation. It's a here's the needs, and here's the costs associated with that. Do you have opinions on that, anyone?
I just say, if you want, you can direct them to myself or Wendy, and we can help them out. I do think having a structure, if you're going to do that, I hate to always be the financial wet blanket. I'll take it from Kyle this time. There are you have 2 middle schools, 2 high schools. We have charter schools. I don't know if they run this, but they all have programs.
Yep.
So we just do have to think about the precedent of these, and we are heading into an extremely tight budget year, which you will learn more about.
Well, I was just going to make the suggestion, and I said I don't want to step on Sherry's toes or put it back on her, because she helps with the youth council, part of her assignments. But I think it would be good to see if we can partner and coordinate some of those activities with them. That might be a good way that we can contribute without stepping over maybe that financial line as well.
Yeah, because I know that was part of the conversation, even with the English language, because our youth council always looks for opportunities to come and help teach English language classes and things like that. So yeah, that's not a bad idea if we can, because we do have budget. And so I can definitely we have a meeting tomorrow with the youth council, so I can chat with them about, you know, we are looking for opportunity. They are planning some activities this year, and maybe somehow we could combine or coordinate and do some, you know, joint activities that would allow some of that budget to go towards, you know, a broader, and that kind of solves the issue as far as just only giving to your particular school one too, because we could expand that to any of the other groups like yourselves that wanted to even have a bigger opportunity. You know, we could talk about that for sure.
There's also the potential for the Friends of Harriman with their culture division, where they may be able to fundraise or do something in your behalf.
Okay.
And be able to donate that over or do something like that. I also know that they have the Harriman puzzle that is a potential thing for, and I know the fundraising is tough for what the restraints you guys have, but there may be some other options or workarounds on that side.
Then as an aside, please email me so I have your contact.
Perfect.
On my work life financial side. I have some ideas for you as well.
Okay, awesome. That would be great.
And I would offer up too, and with the councils, I would love to offer to come. I would love to come to your next meeting, you know, your next, as part of the Friends of Harriman, we'd had you were probably, I think we've talked about this, but we had a Latino summit a couple of Fridays ago here, and we had 60 people come and bring their resources. So I've been made aware of a lot of resources. I would love to just come and talk about, I don't think coming up with the money from somewhere is going to be an issue, so I would just love to come talk about how we can blow this thing up, if I'm being honest. I think there's so much potential here based on the other stuff we've talked about is happening in the community. So, and if you want to just, Grant, I would love an invite to your next, with council's permission, to attend that, and I would love to come and just kind of talk through some ideas, and just, because I think we want to support this. I think it's hard to commit right now financially, things are tight, but I don't think that doesn't mean we don't want to support and try to do everything we can to find a way to make this happen. So,
Great.
so.
Thank you so much.
And again, amazing work, all of you.
Yeah.
We're proud of you. We're grateful to have you here. So,
Thank you so much.
thank you for being here.
Do you want a picture?
Oh yeah, let's do a picture. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Let's do a picture.
Do I need to return this? Oh, okay, perfect.
Come closer.
Sorry.
Okay, start over here. Look at those cameras. Okay, now this one. All right, one. Make sure your eyes are open. 1, 2, 3.
You about done for the evening?
About to stand up. Rest of the day.
It's so much worse. I wish I had the surgery.
It's terrible.
Tell people having a rector set holding my back together.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you Friday at 3.
Healthy discs, discs
From that to an audit.
The one behind it.
It's a quick presentation. He said 3.5 minutes.
3.5 minutes. Okay, on that note, we'll move on to 9.2, a presentation of the audited financial statements for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023. Here we go.
We started the timer, so.
3.5 minutes. Well, that's just going to be my introduction right there.
All right.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here presenting this evening. My name is McKay Hall. I'm an audit partner with the firm Hinton Burdick. As I get going, I'm reminded of a story of an individual who was having a fight for their life and had poor health conditions, and they went to the doctor. They had tried all sorts of things, and the prognosis was not good. They go to the doctor, and the doctor says, "I'm sorry, we tried the last of it. It's not going to work. You've only got about 6 months left." And they said, "Doctor, is there nothing else I can do?" The doctor thought for a second and said, "Well, you could marry a CPA." The individual said, "Will that make me live longer?" The doctor said, "No, but those 6 months will feel like 6 years." So I'm hoping to keep this just a few minutes, but if it starts to feel like
Does that
a few
apply for
years-
anybody in finance?
Huh? What?
Does that apply to anybody in finance?
No, financial planners are much more exciting.
I don't know, do we have anybody in finance on the council? I'm not sure.
Issue no opinion on that this eevening, but okay. So I'll
Watch
touch
it.
real quick on
Hey, I'm married to an accountant too, so.
I'll touch real quickly on what it is that we do, broadly speaking, when we conduct an audit. I'll touch on what the results of the audit were for the year. I'll touch on a couple of financial numbers to keep an eye on as the council, and then we'll take a look at some 5-year trends. So when we perform an audit, our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement. Misstatements are considered material if there is a substantial likelihood that individually or in aggregate they would influence the judgment made by a reasonable user based on the financial statements. So we come in and we take a look through various tests, analytics, confirming with external parties, looking at supporting documentation. We test the information in the accounting system of the city that then flows through to the financial statements, and we test the information in the financial statements to see if it appears that it is materially correct. We test to make sure that there aren't material misstatements in the financial statements, and so that you, as the council and the users of your financial statements, can rely on that information in your judgments and your decisions. And when we conduct our audits, they're conducted in accordance with the auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America. And since you are a local government, we also adhere to the standards applicable to financial audits as contained in the government auditing standards issued by the Comptroller General of the United States. As I said, we go through and we have the various testing techniques. We do take a look at your internal controls, your processes and procedures that safeguard and make sure that the resources of the city are used properly. That is, auditing those internal controls is not a primary focus of the financial audit, but in order to be able to issue an opinion on the financial information, we have to come to an understanding of what your internal controls, what your processes and your procedures are, and we have to take a look to see if they're operating as they've been designed. And so we do consider those in our scoping and our planning and our test work. We take a look at those processes and procedures. And if there are issues where it would allow a material misstatement to be processed through your system without being caught and corrected in the normal course of operations, then we go through and issue material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. And those are findings that come out of the financial audit. And we communicate those and any issues we run into in a letter that's presented to you as the council, those charged with governance. If we come across smaller issues or recommendations, areas where we think there could be some efficiencies gained or improvements made, or there's a small thing that could be a material weakness or a significant deficiency later on, we'll communicate that to management in an other items communicated to management letter. So the results. The independent auditor's report, which is found on pages 13 through 15 of your annual comprehensive financial report, it's a clean or an unmodified opinion. So based on our test work, the information in the financial statements is materially correct, and you as the council can rely upon it in your considerations and your determinations. We also issue a report on compliance and on internal controls over financial reporting. That's related to the processes and procedures, the internal controls that I was just talking about. And you can find that report on pages 145 and 146 of that annual report. And if there are any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, then we list them there for your consideration. We're happy to report that there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies noted this year. I would like to commend your finance department. They've worked hard. If you go back a few years, there were a number of material weaknesses and significant deficiencies, and they've been working to get that reduced. And I think it's a sign of their dedication and their focus, their commitment to doing things right and properly, that they've been able to get those issues addressed, and that you have no such material weaknesses or significant deficiencies this year. Also, there is a state compliance report. It's found on pages 147 through 148. We're happy to note that that is also an unmodified or a clean opinion. There were no material findings for compliance this year either. A few of the numbers that you'll want to keep your eye on as the governing body. The total net position of the city, which is in effect the equity, the resources that the city has available to meet its obligations. As of June 30th, 2023, it was $598 million. And a little more information on exactly how that number comes about can be found there on page 33. That net position increased by $48.2 million this year, and there's more detail of that on page 34. It's showing that the governmental activities was an increase of $38.3 million, and the business type activities increased by $9.9 million. That would be in the water and the stormwater funds. Another important factor of that to keep in mind is that some resources are more liquid than others. A big portion of the city's resources, that equity number, is tied up in the net invested in capital assets. So the infrastructure, the roads, those are your capital assets. And of the $598 million that the city has, 514 of that is tied up in those capital assets, that infrastructure. And so that's not very liquid. That's hard to convert into cash. You really have about $83 million worth of what could be called cash resources. And of that, there's $31.5 million that's restricted. So the way that the city can use it is pretty limited by external parties. It's very focused on its purpose and its use. The unrestricted net position, which are the resources that you really have to use kind of at the drop of a hat to meet your obligations and your needs, for the city, it's $52.8 million. That net position is an important number to watch over time because it's an indicator of the health of the organization. If it's got a fairly steady incline, if it's increasing over time, you would like to see that because of inflation and other factors. Those resources do need to build up. If it stays completely level over time, or if it's decreasing over time, that means that you're going to run into trouble financially at some point in time because your resources are decreasing over time. So that's an important number to watch. Some of the 5-year trends: the general fund, balance sheet trends, the assets, the liabilities, and the fund balance. We've got those lined out there. That blue line with the diamonds that's across the top, those are the total assets. As you can see, there's been a fairly steady increase over the years. There was a dip in 2021. You'll notice there was also a matching decrease in liabilities in 2021, that red or pink line with the squares there in the middle. The city had a fair amount of deposits for others that it was holding, having to do with construction and the like. And in 2021, that came down significantly, causing the decrease in both the assets and the liabilities. And then in 2022, it went up as a result of operations and just the normal operations of the city and activity. That bottom blue line with the triangle, that's your fund equity that we were just talking about. As you can see, it dipped a little from 19 to 21, but it's come up. And you normally expect to see some fluctuation up and some down every once in a while, but over time, you'd like to see that number increasing. So, the general fund cash trend, the blue line across the top with the diamonds, is the unrestricted cash, much like the unrestricted equity. That's the cash that you have to use as needed. And then that line across the bottom with the squares, that's restricted cash. Again, the manner in which you can use that is restricted. As you can see, the restricted cash has stayed fairly low for the city over the years. There was an increase in 2022 having to do with some grant funds that were held and to be used in the subsequent year. The general fund revenue and expenditure trend. Over time, you expect the general fund to break even. It's not really meant to turn a profit and bring money in necessarily. So over time, you'd like to see the revenues and the expenses even out and match up. And if you take a look, that's what you're seeing. The blue line with the diamonds is the revenue. That pink or red line with the squares, that's your expenditures. They've stayed fairly close over the last 5 years. The expenses have been a little higher than the revenues in 3 of the 5, but they're pretty close. It's not really a concerning trend necessarily. And then that green line across the bottom with the triangles, those are other financing sources and uses that are netted together. And so you can see you've got other, one might call them non-operational, as it were, contributions, transfers in, debt proceeds, those sorts of things fall in that category. And as you can see, those have added some additional revenues into the city over the 5 years. Safety enforcement. Over the last 5 years, the revenues and the expenses have stayed fairly consistent. It did begin operations in 2019, so this is the first set of a full 5-year analysis. Those have remained fairly consistent. The city fire safety area began in 21, and so it's got the 3 years of comparison. If you take a look, the revenues and the expenses were pretty close in 21. There's been a bit of a gap that's occurred between 22 and 23 compared to 21. But that's because of the nature of the expenditures. Some of the expenditures that are applicable to that activity are covered by other funds. And so that green line across the bottom shows transfers out, which is in nature much like expenses. And so once those are factored in, the revenues and the expenses have been fairly close over the last 3 years. Community Development and Renewal Agency. Again, these are governmental funds, and so they're expected to break even over time. As development occurs, the revenue comes in, certain expenses occur. Those don't always match up in timing, the revenue flowing in and when the expenses are incurred. As you can see, over the last 5 years, 4 of those years have had revenues in excess of expenses. Last year, the expenses increased over the revenue, and we'd expect to see similar trends where those two draw close together, and some years the one outpaces the other. Capital projects over the last 5 years. In 2019, there was a large capital purchase made by the city. In a capital projects fund, we'd normally expect to see resources build up over time, and then in the course of just a year or two, they'd be drawn back down as there are large capital projects that occur and are funded out of the capital projects fund. And that's what we see in 2019. There was a large expense for the capital asset purchase. The revenues, expenses, they've remained fairly consistent in the last 4 of 5 years. Depending on what the capital projects fund is being used for, that's not all that unusual a trend. Depending on what you're planning on expending funds for, you may want to see about building up some resources in that area as well. The water fund, revenues and expenses, these are the operating revenues and expenses for the water fund. Now, I've been saying that the governmental funds are expected to break even over time. The enterprise funds are a little different. They're a little more like a business because they usually have infrastructure that ages out over time, which means that over time, the revenues really need to be more than the expenses. And you should be building up some sort of equity in the fund so that that can be used to replace the aging infrastructure when it needs to be replaced. And so this 5-year trend where the expenses have exceeded the revenues, that can be concerning. If it continues that way year after year, you're going to find yourself in a financial pinch at some point. When you have to replace that infrastructure, you might not have the resources to be able to do it. And so that can put you in a really tight position. I do know that the city has been looking at rates and making a change there, and that's what it needs to do. As a city, you need to take a look and see what you can do to increase your revenues and reduce your expenses, because that does need to change. You need to have more years where the operating revenues, outpace the operating expenses. As noted in the verbiage at the bottom, there are some other non-operating revenues that have been coming into the city that have helped keep the water fund from running into a deficit position. But long-term, that operating revenue needs to outpace the operating expenses. And that's the 6 years. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you. We had the audit committee just previous to council meeting, and so I got to see this presentation twice. It didn't get any better, but it's great to see the trends and the notes from your audit, and just what the last year and a half has brought to the city and how we're progressing in that. I know that we could dive into any one of these categories and really look and see where those numbers and budgets are going. But I think this presentation's done a great overview of that, and I'm sure other people have questions.
I don't really have questions. I have a few comments, but go ahead.
No, I just have a comment. I was in the water board meeting a few hours ago, and we just had the audit finding presentation there too. And so, hey.
It's an exciting day.
Yeah, but it's not supposed to be exciting, because if it gets too exciting, that means we have findings, and we don't want findings.
Yep.
So thank you. Good job.
So my couple comments. One, I know I'm a huge pain on the financial stuff, especially for our staff. So I just want to say thank you to all of them. You mentioned some of the changes made. This wasn't too long ago, several years ago, I was complaining to someone about some of the financial issues I felt there were at the city, and the comment back to me was, well, I've been to these meetings, and every time the audit comes, they say everything's fine. I said, well, what they're saying is that the way we're accounting for what we're doing is correct, right? So it's materially correct the way we're accounting for what we're doing. That doesn't mean they're not telling us that what we're doing is good. They're not issuing a judgment on the decisions that we're making on how we're spending money, just that the way what we've decided, we're accounting for it properly.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, we're not saying your financial standing is good or bad. We're just saying you can look at the numbers and make your decisions on those numbers.
So that's the first thing, just for public consumption, understand. The second I want to make sure I clarify is a few of the numbers put up there. The city does not have $600 million. And no one wants to buy a road from us, which is a large part of that number, right? And we don't have $52 million, right, that unrestricted number, to do things with. We have, of the numbers that are maybe more relevant to the public consumption, I think, is the general fund balance, right, of that 8 to 10 million, and even the 13 million kind of annual operating budget is what we're working with. That's discretionary, where we can say where we want it to go. Of that 13 million, however, only 3 million is kind of set aside that we can really decide what to do with. The rest of it is spoken for with operations, et cetera. So there's really only 3 million that we can really make real decisions on every year on where that goes. And put that into perspective, right now, our road maintenance budget is, correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, but just what the city is contributing, not including some of the state funds, but 1.5 million roughly. And a recent study we had done, well, it was probably 2 years ago that data is based on, said to have it at the highest standard that we want it to be, that should be 2.5 million. And we have to spread that 3 million over maintenance, repair, not just repairing roads, but replacing some old roads. 6,000 West, there's a mile and a half stretch needs to be done. What are we up to? $3 to $6 million now to replace that. It was 3 million several years ago. I'm sure it's nearly doubled. So I just want to put some of those numbers into perspective, that the city we're not flush with tens of millions of dollars. We actually have very little. Our city manager referenced a few minutes ago, it's a tight budget year. That money, there's not enough to go around. This data helps us know that we can rely on the numbers being given to us to make those decisions.
That's a very good point. When I talk about these numbers, it's like saying, at my job, I brought home $50,000 this year. That doesn't mean I have $50,000 I can use at the drop of the hat. That means that I earned $50,000. And after, federal taxes, I've got like $10,000 left.
Right.
So you're right. These numbers are very high level. It's not necessarily what you can whip out the checkbook and write a check for. And that's important to remember.
Thank you for all I said. Those are just comments more for the public to reference, but thank you for the report and everybody's work on this.
Kyle, did they You haven't handed out those books yet to council, or have you? Oh, you did, okay. Awesome.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for the comments.
Appreciate it,
Any other?
McKay. Thank you for all you do. And
Okay.
Kyle, anything to add? You good?
Okay.
Appreciate
And
it.
as with every year, if you wake up in the middle of the night with that burning question, feel free to reach out.
You're awesome.
Appreciate it, McKay.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to our finance team for all your work on that. Okay, move to item 10, which is the consent agenda. Steve, did you?
Yeah, I had proposed that we move item 10.8 into just a general discussion. It was about the reappointment to the board, and so I just wanted to make sure that we had a chance to talk about that and not necessarily make it part of the consent agenda.
Okay, motion by Steve to remove 10.8. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I need that by? But do I need? Oh, all in the same motion. Okay.
So I make a motion to approve the consent agenda without 10.8 in there. Is that okay?
Second.
Okay. Motion by Sherry, second by Teddy. Jared?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
I'll vote yes, that motion carries. So we'll now discuss 10.8. You want to start, Teddy?
Sure. So this is the appointment to the sewer board. And I wanted it either in work session or on the general session anyways, to make sure that that was talked about. So thanks for that, Steve. So this is a 4-year appointment that will start January 1, as I finished off a 2-year remainder of the previous appointee to that position. So this will be a 4-year position, pending elections, XYZ, in 2 years, however that works, depending on who we appoint. This is to represent our seat in the South Valley Sewer Board. So.
I think I've done a good job, and I think we're having some longevity in each of our board positions, right? So for those who don't know, I'm on the Unified Fire Authority Board, Teddy's on the Sewer Board, Sherry's been on the Water Board, and Sherry, Lauren, and Steve are on the Legislative Policy Committee for League of Cities and Towns. There's several of these different boards, but we usually have this discussion in January going into the beginning of the year. And I think our consensus has been longevity on those boards is a good thing. This one in particular, though, has a specific term, and they're asking us for our consent to reappoint him now.
Because the term ends before we can have the full discussion. And
Yeah, and so I stepped in I think it was mid-February or even March by the time we got it through our board discussions and then the first meeting. So it was more of just under 2 years. But as Jared said, anytime, even in this position, at the first year is where am I? Who are my friends? Who are my allies? What's the relationships?
How does it work?
How does
and
it
what are
work?
the issues?
What's my powers? What's my authorities? Yeah. So, as you all know, there's a lot of moving parts with the sewer board, developments, transitions. We have the largest sewer board in the state, or the boundaries or districts in the state, and so it's a lot of area.
okay, I'll just any concerns about staying with Teddy with Councilman Hodges on the sewer board?
Do we need an official motion or something, Jackie?
Well, now,
Yeah, I just want to make a comment that it has nothing to do with Teddy or his personal effectiveness there in any way. But I have to make the comment just from a consideration standpoint is that when we are doing appointments like this that have a 4-year term for somebody that only has 2 years left in a term, are we setting ourselves up for continually chasing this potentially less effective person in that position? Does that make sense? If every time you have to put somebody in there, there's a learning curve to get up to speed, and we're putting that in jeopardy on a rotating 2-year basis, that starts to become less productive for us. And so I'm just putting out as a discussion point or as a point of consideration, does it make sense for us to appoint, to misalign those appointments?
That's a good question. My immediate response would be that I wouldn't, at least in my experience, we have not rotated that person on a 2-year basis. Their appointment schedule is just bisects our election cycle. So in this case, Teddy will be completing his 2nd year on that board, right? And he has 2 more years left on his term, so he'll be there a total of 4 years of his term on the council. It's just that their cycle is a 4-year period for Harriman City. So where we have an election cycle halfway through that 4 years, we just have to approve this midway through his term, versus if it were Steve or I, our election cycle coincides with their appointment cycle. But that doesn't mean that we're switching it every 2 years.
Yeah, I don't think it would be, I don't think it would be fair to say so only the people that,
Yeah.
your district and Steve's district, the only people that could ever serve on the sewer board because of the election cycle.
Because you're still on it 4 years of
Yeah.
that term.
But we even have the opportunity to change it every year as any committee or any
Yeah.
board.
Yeah.
We have the authority or power to do that. It's just, in these entities, like you said, it's the longevity, the seniority. We have two positions up as well that are leaving, that are seniority. So I'll be the second longest person in that board if I stay in January. So
With
potentially.
only 2 years in the position.
Correct.
Yeah.
But you have like the old mayor Bluffdale falling off. You have councilman out of Riverton that's not running for re-election. So those 2 positions, a Bluffdale and a Riverton position, will be new appointees. And then you have a newer appointee from South Jordan that came in midway, filling in Mayor Ramsey's term. And then you have a business owner out of the Draper area that's been on the board for a decade, probably. So.
What is the sewer board's? I think they were very favorable about your reappointment, if I understood their comments. Is that a fair representation?
That'd be a fair statement. So Joel Thomas is he's the new GM there. He took over from the long-standing GM that opened it, and he's been with the sewer board for I think 10 years, from working in the pits all the way up through management. And he's very knowledgeable, and the staff there's been is pretty awesome to work with. So.
I personally
Again, I just think it was something we should. I just didn't think it was a consent agenda item. I think it was something we just needed to have a discussion about, understanding what the issues are, and at least asking the questions that I think should be asked. And I appreciate the answers. And again, none of those questions have anything to do with Teddy and your the service you've been on that board.
And I do want to make a point. It is a paid position as well. It comes with a small stipend for 7 a.m. meetings of about roughly $100 a month, roughly 170 something maybe.
Okay, I'll look for a motion to reappoint.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Councilman Hodges to the South Valley.
There's a resolution.
Oh.
So
If you could approve resolution
the resolution.
R50-2023.
50-2023. All right, so I'll make a motion to approve resolution R50-2023, reappointing Councilman Hodges to the South Valley Sewer Board.
Okay, motion by Jared,
Second.
second by Sherry. Jared?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Thank you. Appreciate the discussion. And I agree that was probably a good idea to have a discussion about it. Okay, move on to item 11.1, review and consider a request by Brandon and Anna Parker to amend the general plan future land use map from hillside and agricultural residential to neighborhood 1 for 5.3 acres of property at 13286 South Rose Canyon Road. Michael.
Thank you. And I want Councilmember Steve Shields to know I was thinking about him when I put together this presentation. We're going to have one presentation for both legislative items. 6 slides, Steve. Just 6 slides, okay.
Good man, Michael. Appreciate it.
So as the council knows, these legislative items come to you upon a recommendation from the Planning Commission. Both the general plan and the zoning map amendment that you will be considering tonight were initiated by the Parkers. And again, these were recommended approval by the Planning Commission. So our vicinity map just showing the general area where this rezone or general plan amendment and rezone is located. This is the outline of the subject property. It's approximately 5 acres. The property owner, the new property owner, the Parkers, did hire a surveyor, submitted a survey to the city that described the property about 5.3 acres. I'm not sure that that's been recorded with the county just yet, but we were using that survey that they had delivered to us by a licensed surveyor. As you can see in this map, the general plan, this property was anticipating preservation of larger agricultural properties. That was one of the objectives of the recent general plan. The zoning on the property is consistent with that currently. It's A143. As you know, we've had some rezones that happened during the course of the general plan amendment or the approval that the City Council did about 15 months ago. Primarily the Sky Ranch subdivision is A110. It's a mix of lot sizes, but primarily you're seeing third, half-acre lots in that project. Across the street to the east, the A143 zone, that is currently general planned for what's called Neighborhood 1. So you're still going to see potentially, you could see a rezone in those areas to R110, A1, 21, for half-acre lots. Obviously, the A143 is saying it's 1 acre minimum under that present zone, but the general plan would allow potentially for a rezone to a smaller lot pattern across the street. And so one of the thinking of this applicant really was more of a friendly amendment to the city, not opposed to the larger objectives of the city of saying we really do want to try and preserve areas in the city where we still have the potential of having true large lot agricultural uses, but perhaps those larger ag lands should be adjacent to perhaps other existing agriculturally used properties, farms or open space, access to trails for horses and whatnot. So this was just saying, the die has been set a bit in this neighborhood. Maybe as we did that change in our general plan, maybe we didn't look very closely at this particular area. As you know, this property was on the market for a period of time, and I believe that some potential buyers who put this property under contract previously had engaged the council in asking for your input on the potential for seeing rezones to a higher density than what is being proposed by the Parkers. So I think in general, once that kind of proposal went away and the Parkers were able to secure the property and began talking with the city about this general plan and zoning amendment, it seemed like through the community outreach process that the community was generally more in favor of this proposal, and I think in comparison to some of the other conversations that we were having. From the community meeting, it was generally said, we do prefer the larger lots, but I think that, again, that was in comparison to some of the other conversations that were happening on this 5 acres. There was another comment with the Planning Commission public hearing that was dealing with concerns about irrigation, drainage, and also how many large animal rights might be associated with this property if it were to be rezoned. That is largely a function of subdivision design, and so we identified that as an issue that would be addressed by the Planning Commission later if the property were subject to further subdivision. So with that said, the applicant did provide this concept. It's just a schematic. One of the things that they are trying to achieve is preservation of the existing home, this kind of culturally kind of significant or historic family home within the community. Also trying to identify how to preserve some of the orchards that are on this property. And so that was one of their objectives. This layout, you can see it does provide a potential connection to a future development to the south. And that is a requirement of the city in a subdivision application. Certainly not something that we are obligated to approve or say that we accept this subdivision. This is just more of a schematic. This layout of 9 lots on the property has a density of about 1.7 units per acre. The description for the zone that is being requested would allow potentially up to 2.5, but that's on the maximum. This is the A110 zone that would have a range of densities, and you start with 1.8, and then you have to basically earn up to 2.5. So again, their thinking is that they would be looking at 9 lots with a density of 1.7, which would be compliant with that rezone request. So again, the general plan request is to amend it from hillside and agricultural residential to neighborhood 1. In your packet, I included a little chart from our general plan that's going to show what zones we're looking at that would be compatible with that. Again, you would see those quarter acre and up to half acre zone types would be consistent with that neighborhood 1. And then the zoning map amendment, A143 single family to an A110 single family. Again, that's a quarter acre, generally a minimum size of a 10,000 square foot lot, but still have to maintain that 1.8 maximum density, which obviously if you do 1.8 on 1 acre, you're gonna get larger lots. And that's what that concept plan is showing, is that it's a mix of lot sizes, but some are larger and some are that quarter acre size. Any questions for me? I believe the applicant is here if you have any questions for them.
No, Michael, will you go back to the one where you show the surrounding neighborhoods? A couple more. Right there.
Okay.
Everything around it's already A110, right?
Right. To the west. Now, as described in the report, you do have a couple of these parcels to the north and to the south, and it would be reasonable to anticipate that if this were rezoned, we might see rezones for the properties around it. We had talked on the staff level with the Parkers about potentially contacting their neighbors and seeing if they wanted to include other properties in this particular request. I don't know why, but they chose to just move forward with their own 5-acre property that they controlled.
Yeah, because it would be nice not to just kind of spot zone. It would be nice to just include the whole section right there. Got you. But
I will say we made it, 15 months before we had a general plan amendment after you adopted it. So good for you, good for us. A lot of cities, you start feeling the pressure right away to change that general plan. We really encouraged a lot of our development partners to let things sit for a year and not try to push that envelope. But this is the first general plan amendment request of the new plan. So
I could be wrong, but I think in my time up here, that's been the longest period we've gone without a rezone or an amendment request.
I think it's one of the first ones I've had. Other than we had some to go to commercial.
we were on the street, guys. We were on a roll, and now you brought us.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that your okay? So
Need to.
Jared has made can we do a public, he would like to open it, see if there are any of the neighbors here would like to.
I just noticed that several people in the audience, you guys must be here for this item.
We can do that.
And several came in after the public comment. It's been our practice in the past on these types of requests to do a public hearing with the council. So I'm just seeing that they came in after the public comment portion. If they're here to comment on this, would it be okay if we?
Okay with that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. If there's any residents or Anybody, or the applicant, if you'd like to say anything, we'll open it. No, you don't have to, no pressure, but we just wanted to make sure we kind of heard from you. No pressure. I heard you're coming from South Jordan in the Planning Commission
Yeah,
meeting.
so we saw the plans that we needed more money here. So we thought more residents would help, right? And we're part of the Harriman Rugby Booster Club, so
Yeah,
this will help.
that's why we're trying to be in Harriman High School boundaries. So I wanted to
I like
answer
it.
that question about the properties to the north and south. And we've approached the families, but they would like to retain their properties until a further time in the future, so.
So, but they know that they don't have to sell if they rezone. They can just rezone and stay there for
Yeah.
millennial, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we just thought we would ask them if they were
Yeah.
getting close to thinking about it, and they are not ready, so that's fine, we're.
Yeah.
um,
Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys own the property, but you don't live there.
We don't own it yet. We're waiting to make sure that we obtain the rezone before we,
We're under contract.
yeah.
All right. So then this might be a question going back to Michael. With these things, what always makes me nervous is the pictures that we see, right? It's a concept. That doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen there. And it's the intention to keep and preserve that home, but once we rezone this, there's nothing in place that says that has to happen. It can be bulldozed and put the maximum number of lots in there.
How many lots are you proposing, if we have that graph? Mike?
So for a profession, I buy and remodel homes and sell them. So this one is a perfect example of that. And plus, we like the idea of keeping this, I don't want to say historic, but it's a long-standing home that's been there. So it would make no sense to demo it, I guess, to take it down to rubble and start fresh.
So right now, we're planning on that largest lot with the orchard. That's going to be our future home.
Can we put a ZC on it that would say
That was
it
my
can't be
question.
more than this many per, we can max it out at 1.8 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
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 Are you open to that? Are you okay
Oh,
with
yeah,
that?
absolutely.
'Cause that- yeah.
Part of what we're so drawn to is the idea that all of our neighbors also will have larger lots and kind of the same lifestyle that we are looking for.
Okay.
That'd be fine.
You went exactly where, well, we've done this enough, you and I. You knew where I was going.
Yeah. I always brought you
So
good
we
plans
do
up
the
from the
ZC
planning
on the
commission.
next one, though. This one would just be.
Just on the next one. Yeah, that'd be on the next.
No,
Well,
I mean,
on the next item.
Agenda item, though.
On the zoning, not the general
So
plan.
not the master plan.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. Appreciate you being here.
Anybody else come here to
Else, yeah,
make
wanna
comments?
speak?
Want us to hear?
21, okay. Okay. We don't need a motion or anything, right? Okay. So I guess hearing a motion then.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2023-19, amending the general plan, the general plan future land use map for 5.3 acres of property located at 13286 South Rose Canyon Road from hillside and agricultural residential to neighborhood 1.
Okay, motion by Jared,
Second.
second by Teddy. Jared?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
Sherry? Steve?
Yes, but I'd like to make a comment.
Okay, and I'll vote yes. Okay, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, based on information we got from our city attorney a while back, there's only some very specific instances under which any of us would declare any conflict of interests. And just because I happen to know the Parkers pretty well, Anna was the real estate agent when we purchased our home. She's a longstanding family friend, and they're just people we think really highly of. I didn't want to make any comments during the debate part of it, just to avoid any potential even appearance of a conflict there. But I think this is the right decision the council made. I'm very supportive of it. I like the plan. I know what you guys have in mind out there, and I couldn't be happier that you guys are going to be doing it. So thanks for bringing us to the city. Thanks for bringing a good development to the city and a good plan. And I'm glad we got to vote on a positive way for it tonight.
I'm surprised Jeff Wilson isn't here to support this. Okay, so we just need to move on to 11.2. No presentation, same presentation. So I guess I'll look for Somebody want to make a motion with the zoning commission then?
1.8, right?
Yeah.
That'll get-
That was kind of the minimum, that was kind of where it started at that zone anyway. It goes 1.8 up to 2.
And that gets them those number of units there on that.
What they're proposing, you said was 1.7, 1.75.
Right, so you could
Say
could
1.8.
specify 1.8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then I will make a motion to approve ordinance number 2023-20, amending the Harriman City zoning map for 5.3 acres of property located at 13286 South Rose Canyon Road with a zoning condition of 1.8 units per acre.
Okay, motion by Jared,
Second.
second by Sherry.
Second.
Sherry? Oh, sorry. Okay, Steve?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, that motion carries. Look forward to having you in our community. So,
Thank you.
thank you, Michael. Okay, that brings us to the conclusion of our general meeting tonight. Future meetings. We do have a special city council meeting Wednesday at 5. When are we starting? When are we starting next Wednesday? 5:30. The planning commission is also meeting. They're not very happy that we're kicking them out of their regular meeting room because they're meeting the same night. But planning commission is also next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Senior social tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock downstairs here. Sounds like we're expecting about 130 to 140 residents. Miss Harriman Scholarship Competition is this Saturday night at Fort Harriman Middle at 7 o'clock. You can get discounted tickets up until Friday night. And then the general election again is coming up on the 21st. Districts 1 and 4 in the community. Early voting starts next week here. You can vote by mail as well. And then Night of Lights on November 27th at 6 o'clock at Crane Park. Any other?
If I can make a plug for Miss Harriman, if you guys haven't gotten tickets or want to see an awesome local pageant, we have some amazing, amazing talent there. The young women, we did some mock interviews, the mayor and I, last Saturday. They're stellar people of our community, so go out and support them. It's a fun event.
I'll make one more comment on that. Please keep the orchards.
Keep the orchards? Yes. Thank you. Okay, with that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn and go back to work meeting.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.